coming to you from the Blue Mountains again. This is volume 4 of Meet the Therapist. Today I'm with Noelene Kelly, who is a fellow Blue Mountains practitioner. And today we're going to be talking about remembering and activating. So I might just get Noelene to introduce herself. So Noelene, do you want to just tell us, I guess, what you do and what you have done and a little bit about yourself?
Yes, lovely. Thank you, Jana. I do inner work, transformational healing, you might call it that, shamanic work. And it comes out of a long, long and deep tradition. When you say remembering, it's been a lifelong journey for me to remember what I know. And it's been one of the biggest challenges in my life. And yet it's one of the greatest joys, because in doing this for myself, I'm much more equipped to do it for others. I used to be a nun in the Catholic Church and have been privileged to take with me the wisdom of the mystical traditions from that circle. And I've studied and depthed the mystical traditions, really, of many great religions, and have renamed them, rebranded them, and worked with them as spiritual intelligence, if you like, and bring that into my work. So over the years, I've been a teacher, I've been a secondary school principal, I've taught mediation, done many things really, but it's all been part of this journey to bring together the ability to, to help people as well as myself remember who they truly are. And I just think we're in the most awesome traditional moment of all time. And it is the time for remembering and bringing more of our soul, self or divine self into this body of ours, into the flesh. So it's all about heaven and earth meeting, if you like. And it's, when I say lifelong journey, I'm 77 years young. And as a little 3-year-old, asked my uncle, who was then a bishop, "Uncle, what do you do when you pray?" And he said, "I say Mass and the Rosary." And I wasn't satisfied, even as a 3-year-old, with that. I said, "But when you say Mass and the Rosary, do you go up to God or does God come down to you?" And he couldn't really answer that question. So it's been a big journey ever since, melding the different dimensions, bringing heaven and earth together for the planet and for ourselves.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, because you said that you studied all of the religions of the world. And I was going to ask whether, because you were a nun for a number of years, I was going to actually ask you whether you kind of grew up within the Catholic Church and how you ended up kind of there and the decision to do that. So obviously you grew up in that.
Yes, and it's obviously when I incarnated this time, I chose to come into a Catholic family in the Catholic Church, which is surprising in a way, because I found out since in my timeline I was a Cathar, which was a rebel in a way against the church. And I guess I was always asking questions. And while I cherished the mystical tradition, I didn't leave that at all. I left the kind of just the dogma and doctrine, really.
Yeah, because I actually grew up in a very Catholic church as well. So my, my ancestors and my family line were very Catholic as well. And I found it actually quite challenging to let go of some of those teachings, and particularly the, I guess, the fear and that I found was instilled, excuse me, through their belief in witchcraft and evil and deceiving spirits and so on. And that was kind of a challenge that I had even when I came to do the past life hypnosis. But I mean, my journey, I couldn't not do it just because of the things that happened to me that sort of pushed me in that direction. But I remember when I used to go to church as a Catholic child, And I would walk in that church and I just felt so much fear and so much gloom. And so, yeah, I don't know, did you have that as a child, or was it very spiritual and uplifting for you?
Well, it was both, but I can understand you as a sensitive being feeling that. I think I became so deeply conditioned in it. Uh, However, it was 30 years that I was a nun, so it wasn't just a few weeks. And so I got used to living with the fear. And it's been a great liberation to be able to let all that go because, yes, I, like you, am connected with other energies and spirits and even witchcraft, whatever it might be. Yes.
Yeah, because I think that also in the work that I do as a past life therapist, I think that there are many of us who were either witness to someone, getting burnt at the stake, or being,
Yeah.
persecuted for something that perhaps, like a lot of people, found that they were very knowledgeable about herbs and plant medicine. And they even, under hypnosis, they even say, I need to, for example, cut the bark off this tree, but I need to do it. I don't know if this is specific, but when they spoke, it was specific, where they said it needs to be, say, 3 days before the full moon, because that hurts the tree the least. And then there was people who, had things like tongues cut out and eyes burnt out. And I think that having gone through that as individuals and as a collective, where if we weren't a victim, we possibly witnessed someone that we love dearly be a victim. And I think that perhaps is ingrained in all of us. And I think it's a really interesting time where we're kind of questioning that fear, and we're starting to bring back that knowledge that we had and those abilities that we perhaps had. Do you think that's what's happening now, currently?
I do. And it's interesting as you speak because I feel that I buried all that remembering. And this is the key point about the remembering. I buried it so deeply. And yet it was always there underneath for me. And I know I was persecuted too and burnt and all that. I know that, and as a cathar too, at kind of thrown over the cliff at Montsegur. And but it took me years to really get back in touch with it. And I believe that I kind of did a descent into the forgetting and the darkness. And it's little by little, and more by more, it's all come back to me. And I totally resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I have to agree. And I'm wearing yellow, as you can see. And I'm wearing that because, so just for the people watching and listening, so we exchanged sessions, and you did for me something that I couldn't do myself. And it was to do with that persecution that I had been through. And same as you, it's taken me years and years of, letting go of that fear, and working out how to not be afraid of, doing the same thing I did back then, and not allowing it to limit me. So you were able to, with what you did, you helped me to realize that I was lacking yellow, which was the joy. And you made me see that joy was there just before that happened to me. So you helped me bridge it, which I thought was really fantastic. And I went out and bought this this yellow vest straight away, and just brought yellow into my life. And it was interesting because when I was doing it with you, I thought, oh, just go along with it, but I don't really want to, because I'm afraid of not having the protection of that barrier.
Yes.
So, as someone that went through persecution for what I did back then, I did the therapy with you, and I kind of went along with it. But at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to let go, because if I let go, then that block isn't there to protect myself. And that's what I find with people that I hypnotize. We put limitations and energies and objects on ourselves which protect us from going through that again until that moment when we're ready to, I guess, learn and move forward and realize that that's not going to happen again.
Yes, and as you speak, I can't really explain this, but I know that some energy or my larger soul or divine being actually works through me really powerfully, and to achieve just what you said, to assist the person let go for themselves the fear. And it just, that energy has been growing in me exponentially lately. And it just happens that it's like, it just comes through. So it's a mystery, and it's something that I'm growing more and more to accept and respect. Likewise, what you did for me. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that like from my experience with seeing so many people with what I do, I feel like there's so many people that have so much knowledge that they're re-remembering now. So there are so many people in the same situation. And some of the people that I have seen, I wrote it down. So some people I have seen had like the ability to sort of manipulate energy, to manipulate physically. So some people were able to what they call shapeshift or change the look of their skin. Some people were like, or one person was like to do with creating planets, and just so much knowledge. I just feel like when I hypnotize these people, they have so much knowledge that comes through. And I think you're right. I think we're just at a time in history where we're all kind of remembering and learning how to use those abilities again, and integrating them, and being able to help ourselves and each other.
Yes, so it's very, very true. It's there's no accident. So it's taken me the best part of 70 years since I was that little 3-year-old to actually awaken and reactivate the gift that I am and that I have, that goes right back to the beginning of time, really. And so in my the total openness to all our gifts from the beginning, and then we lost them at the fall, and it's now the time to reverse that situation. And even though we don't have that primordial innocence, if you like, what we are doing is coming back to ourselves and our gifts with eons and eons of learning and wisdom and understanding. And it's that ancient wisdom, and especially the ancient mystical wisdom, that is so powerful for me in my life and in my work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that perhaps you and I and anyone else that was kind of subjected to persecution through the religion, perhaps that's why maybe in this lifetime, because of the situation, we've been born into that religion, maybe, so that we face it and we can like look at it from this perspective, from the now perspective, and perhaps overcome it. Do you think that's maybe a thing?
Definitely. And in my case, I think it, like I know when I studied in Europe, in Rome for a year, I just had this impulse to go around to all these beautiful old churches and spaces and places. It was like it was part of my, and yet to take hold of and preserve the true beauty in the tradition. The Catholic or Western mystical tradition is very, very beautiful. And you have people like Francis of Assisi, who's so connected with the earth. And I've also studied like Eastern traditions as well. So when I work with people, I can just call on whatever piece of wisdom is needed. And so it's like opening up. There was a great guy called Teilhard de Chardin who wrote Mass on the Universe. So ever since I read that about 40 years ago, I could never be trapped or confined to one little space or place or way of doing things or church. It's just, I just think we're on the brink of discovering the infinite riches. Yeah. So yes, I was born into a confined religious situation, not a confined family situation, but which had a really powerful effect of putting like a cloak of unseeing over me, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And it is fear, I'd like to say. There is only fear and love in the end, only love. Mm.
Yeah, and everything else is a denomination of those two things, the love and the fear, and everything else stems from those two.
That's right.
And yeah, I think that all this knowledge that's been lost, I think also that I've also learned that it's been on purpose too, because it's kind of like the, you know, eating from the tree of knowledge, because we've kind of had all this ability, and then we're like, what would happen if we take all that away and plunge ourselves into, you know, the deepest, darkest situations, and go through all these difficult times, completely separated from all of that. So yeah, I think that many of us have, you know, been thrown into the karmic wheel, even like including all of those people that, you know, had all this amazing knowledge many, you know, lifetimes ago, and in other civilizations.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's the joy of remembering now. And I mean, we went into the illusion of separation, and with all the fear and grief that has brought. And in you and I and others like us overcoming this, it's like it's transmuting it, not just for us, but for the whole planet, because we're all connected with the whole anyway. So especially clearing to the one anyway. Yeah.
So I lost you for a bit, but I assume that you were talking about connecting to the one.
Yes, and by clearing the illusion of separation that we experience, we're clearing it for the whole, for the planet. So it's not far from being wasted. The energies we put into the inner, feeling it as it's part of everything and assisting everything, and assisting us all come back to our original innocence and power.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say is I was really impressed when you did your work on me, just that you used gold light instead of white, because everything I have done with everyone else, it's always been white light, and you did gold. Is that something you did for me, or you always use gold? Because I use gold for everything except for like external protection and house cleansing or energy cleansing.
Yes, interesting that you asked that. In my work, I always do use the gold light. And for me, it's the Christ consciousness light, really. So even though I was in the Catholic tradition and learned about Jesus and all that, over the years it's expanded to the whole Christ consciousness, which for me is gold. And it's that gold light that infiltrates the whole planet. Yeah. And that's what I work with.
Well, that's probably why it worked on me, because because I work with the gold light too, and I see it sort of emanating from everyone, that we're like mini suns here. So I was really pleasantly surprised when you did that. So that was really good. Yeah. So getting on to, I'm just thinking if we can talk about shamanism, because I don't know much about it. And you're a shamanic healer. So do you want to just tell us what shamanism is?
Well, it's very, very ancient. As I said, I've studied different religions, more indigenous. What I'd like to say is I've been trained in angelic shamanism. So normally in shaman journeys, you can go to the upper world, the earth world, or the lower world. And we work a lot with the energies of the earth, air, fire, and water, the energies of plants and animals, whatever might come forward, like you might find your power animal. So, and in my case, I tend to, because I take people into their own darkness often, it's really to bring them to ascend to their light. So it's like a combination of shamanism, and it's like the higher dimensional energies or the transcendent energies and the immanent or earthly energies coming together. Is that making sense?
Yeah. So do you, when you do this, do you mix modalities?
I have been a shaman across eons, and I don't stop and think what modality it is. It's just in me. I don't know whether I cut out there for a little while. Did I? Did you hear what I said about angelic shamanism? So it's probably the way I've learnt to go to the journey to the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. And I find it very beautiful to bring them all together, and it's the way I work to bring people back to their own full light, out of journeying into even the darker realms of within themselves, or whatever they've experienced, this life or another life.
Yeah, because so I read a little bit, and shamans were considered the doctors and the psychotherapists of their community of the time, weren't they?
Yeah, I missed it. It cut out a little bit there. What did you say, shaman?
Shamanism was seen as the doctors and psychotherapists of the community in the time, weren't they?
Yes, very, very much so. And instead, like say for schizophrenia or something like that, often they'd work in really pure way and give the person a shock, and like even get them to go into cold water in the river and bring them out and work their healing there. So there's lots of scope and lots of possibilities. Yes, very much the healers of the ancient traditions, and still today. So, you know, when I've been to Peru and studied there and met the Indigenous people there, some in our own country too, and I've worked with Indigenous people from the Western Sydney University staff there who are Indigenous. And that was a very beautiful thing to do, because they can very easily get in touch with the energy and their power animals. And so everything is here to help us. And often in the Western culture, we just treated the trees and the plants and the animals as things, really, instead of beings with awareness. Yeah, so at the moment I'm doing quite a lot of work on helping to heal and transform the energies in the planet, like in the Amazon where it's so dark, or Hong Kong or USA, and just bringing the lines of light and working with the water and the water codes of the planet. There's just so much to learn and discover and get back in touch with.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to say too that there's lots of people that are doing their own little thing within the planet, like where everyone's doing their own little bit. Yeah, and not just doing work with individuals, but just doing work for the planet and clearing energies, or like, and I think that together we're also creating a grid. So
yes,
we connect up and down. We also connect across ways, and we're making little grids across the planet.
Yes, and clearing the denser energies of the earth. And which brings me to say a very, very strong and powerful thing in my life has been the restoration of the feminine. And one of the reasons I think that I did become a nun was to experience firsthand that hierarchical structure in the church, which I found that I had to move away from ultimately. I did my best to stay with it, but experienced it deeply to come back to myself and to reinstate the feminine. And that's why I love to work with not just the Christ energies, the beloveds, his beautiful Mary Magdalene and Mother, which has helped me a lot to come back into balance and to open my heart more and to bring the feminine back in.
That's so nice. So do you think that shamanism at its core, do you think that like, is it something that's kind of sort of in a particular area, or do you think it's a similar sort of thing across all Indigenous communities and tribes, cultures?
I do think that there's a pattern across Indigenous tribes and cultures, and I'm longing for the day when we can really welcome our Aboriginal brothers and sisters and to learn from them. I think they have so much to teach us in terms of healing the earth, ourselves, and they've never lost that connection, that shamanic connection with themselves and with the earth. Yes, I think it's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm feeling it lately. And I watched a psychic when we had all the bushfires going on in Australia, and she mentioned the journey of the first fleet needs to be cleared through the water. And as soon as she said it, I went, yes, that's it. And I put it out to others to do it. I said, someone do this. And no one kind of responded. So I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. So I gave that a go. But then I actually went down to Botany Bay. I went down to Botany Bay to see if there was anything that needed doing there. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but it was, when I got there, I just felt it was all about the Aboriginal culture. It was just so strong, and I kind of knew that I'm feeling that there will be a real sort of, the attention is going to go to the Aboriginal culture, and we're going to embrace it more, and they're going to not reconnect, but just like really embrace that, and we will embrace that as well. So when all this Black Lives stuff came out and we embraced it here as well, I thought this is exactly what I thought would happen. So I'm kind of excited to see that happening. Maybe we don't quite fully understand where it's going to go or how it's going to pan out, but I think that the direction is really positive now, and I'm quite excited about it.
Yes, and it's interesting how this conversation is going way beyond specific things I do or we do in our work, because I work with a global group now who are clearing, we call them the rose lines, but they're like the ley lines or energy lines of the earth. And you just inspired me to take the first fleet, if you wish, it's your idea, but to the group, and they work on it, like there are people in Poland, America, all over the planet who work with this energy. Like I said, we've worked with the Hong Kong, especially the waters there, clearing like the dragon lines above Hong Kong, the Amazon desert, and the United States is coming in for a lot of healing. But particularly Australia, I could suggest that. And when we do it, you're welcome to join us in the work. Because, if you wish.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be really good, because I also set up something while I was sitting at Botany Bay. I thought it was interesting because where I sat, I could see the two heads in front of me, and it's where the shipping containers come in. So a lot of stuff comes in and out right at that bay, and also the planes come in and out. And so I really wanted, I kind of put like this golden cube at the end of each runway. Now that every plane that passes through, the people are going to go, oh, the culture. So I kind of I know, I just put it there in the hope that everyone that comes here is going to go, I want to see that Aboriginal culture. I want to see it more. I want to experience it.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot already, and there still is perhaps more to do, and especially if we get a global effort behind it. So it's like, I don't know whether you've heard of the Order of the Rose. It's a divine gift way before any religious orders were founded on earth, and it never got tangled up in the fall or anything like that. And it's through the Magdalene and the Christ consciousness and Mother Mary that it's coming back. And so it's the more that we can share this work over the planet for Gaia, the more we're all going to ascend, and the planet will ascend. So it's a lovely thing to come to in this conversation.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to, but that's, yeah, it's good. But yeah, I would love to be a part of that. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was I going to ask now? While we're on talking about, actually, before we leave shamanism, have you done work or know of anyone that's done work with people with schizophrenia? Because that's one topic that everyone kind of goes, no, can't do anything.
Well, I haven't, no. My shaman friend and teacher, May, she's in the United States now, but I don't know anyone to hand. But except like what I did give you that example of working very differently in a healing mode, because a lot of the ways that it's done in our culture, it's like medications that are forever in a state of trial and error, seems to me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I had someone ask recently, and again, I put it out there, and no one kind of put their hand up that they could do anything. So I said that I'll do what I can. So I've been just trying to do some remote energetic work. Yeah, so I'll see how that goes. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, see how that goes and talk to me again, and we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. I will. Now, what else was I going to ask? I have to read. I have got so many things written down. Oh, the power animals. Wait, I'm just writing something while I think of it. Yeah, the power animals, you talk about those within shamanism. Are they the same for the soul throughout lifetimes, or like if you were, say, to find mine now, would it have been the same lifetimes ago, or do we experience different ones? Do you know that?
We experience different ones. I know that because I have myself. And there are certain animals that might come in at a particular time in your life. You know, like a lot of women who are finding their sovereignty and strength for a while work closely with a wolf power animal. And, you know, I have a panther, I've had a polar bear, and certainly the wolf. And I also have like the horse and the unicorn. So sometimes you can get higher dimensional ones. And yes, they're just there on the ready to come in and support and help. Sometimes it's a bird, like, you know, some people have the eagle or whatever. There's lots. I work with people and there's the whole range. Some people get an elephant, some people have a giraffe. It's very lovely because there's an intelligence in it all that we have left untapped, and certainly the Indigenous people are very aware of it.
Yeah. Well, I remember when my son was born, he was born premature, and he was in the NIC unit and hooked up to everything. And a doctor came around and asked something, and I just felt a lion just overcome me. I just went, get away from my child. Like, it was so, I was really quite stunned at how strongly that animal instinct came within me to protect my child. And Yeah, and I've also hypnotized many people that went to when they were an animal in a past life, and it's just reminding them, perhaps this is the same thing with the power animal. Maybe this is the same thing where at this moment in their life they've got to remember or harness the energy of a particular animal, and some have been the eagle, and another one also a lioness, where she even said, I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat, but I have to, and I don't want to kill to eat. So these predatory animals still, like, they have the instinct to and obviously have to eat, but they're still very mindful of life and the sacrifice that's happening when they have to survive.
Yes, that's right. So, and there's an ancient prophecy that when the times of peace come, the wolf will lie down with the lamb. In other words, part of that antagonism, which is, I feel, part of the fall, will be overcome.
And yeah. Do you think that time is coming soon with the lion with the lamb? Do you think we're getting to that?
Oh, I do. Like, I think we've been born for this time. And, you know, about 30 years ago, I used to get impatient thinking, I wish I was born 100 years later. You know, I was waiting for all this, but now we're on tippy toe of excitement with it unraveling. Yes, it's unraveling before our very eyes. We're watching not just history, but momentous change, like the change where we'll come back, if we so choose, come back to our full divinity here on earth.
Yeah.
Heaven and earth meeting in us. Yes.
Yeah.
And expanding to, like, opening up the whole 12 strands of our DNA again. You know, not just the 7 chakras, but the whole 12.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, that's getting, well, there's talk that they're getting activated. And I think that these are part of the abilities. And interestingly, I hypnotized someone who said that part of the 12 strands of DNA, one of the things that was deactivated to protect humanity was the ability to hum a tone while we touch an object to levitate it. And that was one of the abilities we had with the 12 strands of DNA. And supposedly that's how the pyramids were built, using sound vibration, using the voice box. And that ability was switched off and taken away, because obviously we can use that to hurt each other as well. So that's one of the things that was deactivated. So it's really interesting to see how quickly those get activated and where we will be when they do.
Yes, and that's another thing the Indigenous people know, because I was out in the middle of the desert, and way, way up on the top of a mountain, there was a pyramid. And I asked the Indigenous guide that was with us, how did that get there? And he said, by teleportation, because it obviously couldn't have been just built by humans up there, what we were seeing. So, yes, that's a very interesting point you make. When we descended, or, you know, cut ourselves off, supposedly, from our most powerful divine connection, or ate the forbidden fruit, as it said metaphorically, we cut off from those abilities to protect ourselves as well. That's what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the voice, and being able to do that with the voice box and levitate things, we could then levitate ourselves too. So I guess we could fly. Yeah. I guess that's what that means.
I think there are all massive possibilities open to us. Yes.
Yeah. So do you think we're in like a two-world split? Because I'm hearing lots of discussion about the Earth splitting into two, where one's becoming the 5D version, where people are, you know, raising frequencies and becoming the re-remembering and becoming more divine beings, I guess. And then that is splitting away from the third dimensional and that third dimensional is going to continue as the third vibrational frequency, and then that reality is going to become like the I guess the revelation of the Bible, where it's, you know, there's going to be not much freedom, bit of controlling, and kind of not a real pleasant place. Do you think that that's happening? Is that what you perceive?
Well, I've heard that a lot as well. And I don't really know. I do know that we, like you and I that are speaking, and many like us, are ascending to a 5D and even beyond dimensional mode of living. I do know that in third dimension, time is like, you know, it's not, there's no such thing as time in other dimensions. So it can be possible to bend time and bend reality so that the kind of thing that you're asking about could occur. So I believe it's entirely possible. Just how, I think it's also going to depend on human choices. And that's what's not final yet. Yeah.
Because one of the things too that I had heard is that there was, and this was a few years ago, I don't know where I heard it, but that there was a bit of concern for the lower energies and what would happen to them once this shift happened. So there was almost a thing like, where are they going to go? Because there's still concern and care for them, because, you know, it's universal love. So yeah, I remember hearing about it, and I was quite interested in it, because they're like, where are they going to go? Because the only thing that is real is love, and fear is generated within a person. So fear doesn't exist outside of us. So I thought that was interesting, and yeah, just watching where it's going to go. And I guess if I was to think maybe the earth is splitting and that energy is going to be able to live in the remaining third dimension, so that they can stay there, and people that want to have that experience can continue to. Yeah, but yeah, what would you say about that?
The only thing I can say is that it's always been a free will zone. So people who are ascending, which means really becoming more our crystalline or light bodies, are doing it by choice. And people who are not ascending, at some level, that's their choice. Because there's so much available now for people to wake up, in a sense, and that it's finally up to the individual's free choice, free will. And it was a great experiment, I think, creating Earth as a free will zone. And it's had a lot of repercussions and a lot of learning's gone on. But and I wondered for years what it really meant, and what that whole thing about, it was really free will to stay connected and not to split off from the divine. That's putting it as simply as I can after studying all the theology and stuff. So exactly how it will materialize, I don't know yet, but I feel like what you're saying, it does resonate in me as a possibility. And, you know, it might be just some people choose to remain at a certain frequency.
Yeah.
And then there's infinite possibilities for them to wake up as well.
Yeah. Well, perhaps they still have things they haven't experienced and still want to. And that's why when people say, oh, why is this still on earth? Like, why is there still people that starve to death, and why is there still disease? I mean, it's there because souls want to experience it for whatever reason. I'm sure that we've all experienced it. We've all probably starved in a life at some point. And yeah, so I guess it's, as long as those experiences are needed, then that reality is going to be available.
Yeah, yes, it's like we spin out our own choices, our own realities. Yeah. Yes, and there's a lot of mystery in it too, because it's like, for those who are choosing to ascend, there's still going to be a lot of assistance from other realms and other dimensions to bring it all about. You know, it's kind of like an amazing thing that's happening, isn't it? Amazing. Yeah. So even though we do different modalities, in the end, the work coincides a lot, doesn't it? And a lot of people who are light workers, it's all converging, I think, back to the unity that we are.
Definitely. And I think that we're still, like I said to you, I think it's really lovely that we're all needing each other still. Like we still use each other and we need each other to help us through different aspects of it. So we're still all very connected in, not just thinking, oh, I got it, I can do this myself. We still, need each other, and I'll still seek and, naturopath or whatever for if I need them.
Yes, it's like the divine spark in you lights the failing spark in me, or whatever, till we're all alight.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, like I had people kind of say and suggest that where we're heading, healthcare and the medical and health system is going to be very different, in that it will pretty much become what it is now in hospitals and so on, that's pretty much going to become literally for broken bones and when things need sewing up, like repairing from an accident or whatever. So that's interesting that someone said that under hypnosis looking forward, whereas we will all be healing in much different ways. And one of the things that was seen, and my daughter actually saw it, was when she was younger, she saw like these white pods. Like she said, I see these white balls. And I went, oh, okay, whatever, I don't know what that is. And then coincidentally, I had someone come who was also an energetic healer, and she was doing work with Uluru and that energy out there. And she said under hypnosis that there were these big white or pods the size to fit like people, individuals in there, and that they were healing pods, and that was going to be the future of health.
Yes, well, it's a very interesting topic, because I have healed myself of serious eye surgery and TIA, which is a baby stroke. And I've been doing this work of self-healing so that I too can teach others how. We don't need all the medications, because they're very detrimental. Excuse me, very detrimental to our health. The fact that my voice is croaking shows that that often happens when we're on to something pretty important. So there will be radical changes in how we do health. And just there's still a huge demand for healing of any kind, because that's what the whole planet's undergoing, total healing process, and individuals. And there are all these cases against, like Monsanto and the poisons, like even what's the thing called, Roundup, and giving people cancers and things. So we do have the ability to self-heal, and I've had that told to me prophetically, that I will live long and well till I'm ready to say to the Great Mother, I'm tired, and just go to sleep and take me now. And that's how we're not meant to go through all this debilitating older age and the way we do death in the culture. That's another major thing.
Yeah, well, that's lovely to know that it'll be when you're ready.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and that's like I guess the whole thing about health, for me anyway, with what I do, health is very related to trauma anyway, and experiences you've had. So I think that as we're going through all of this and all these changes, I think, and a lot of people are saying that we won't be taking our karma into the 5D or the next phase. So I think that perhaps people may find themselves healing or dealing with that sort of very quickly. And in what I do in helping people heal is that I, get them to see their past life or whatever has happened to traumatize them to cause that manifestation in their body.
That's right. And what I do is to help the more of your soul energy you bring into embodiment, the healthier you are. And so that just requires clearing any blocks to that, or mindsets you might like to call them. And that's kind of the crunch of the work and the journeying I do, is to help people transmute and transform any ego fears they hold, and transform the ego, because the ego is, I think I might have said to you, is not in and of itself a bad thing. It's what gives form to the formless. So transforming the ego, and then in conjunction with that, bringing back the part of the soul that got less available when the person took the mindset on. Excuse me. So it could be even in utero, when we pick up stuff so young and from the parents, from the culture, through the parents.
And so do you think that there's such a thing as like a family curse, or fears or whatever, things that we carry through generations? Do you think that's a thing? And do you think that is learned through the situation we're in, which is the family, or do you think it's cellular? Like, how do you see that?
Well, I see it both, actually. Like, I think was it Edgar Cayce or someone who said that they used to put it in old language, like the sins of the fathers are visited on their children, and that goes down so many generations. But yes, I think we do have family pods and family traits that we do pick up, and right from like in utero even, and that's why healing one is healing up and down the genetic line. Yeah, very much so. And I don't know about a curse. Well, I guess it is a curse, isn't it? If it's some sort of malaise or dysfunction, whether it be physical, spiritual, mental, or emotional.
Yeah, well, I don't like the word curse, but I guess it gets used.
Yeah.
But it's also, I've also found that when there is something like that, a lot of the time it's anger, that anger gets carried through generations. And I find that it's often the same souls in the same family. And that could be perhaps why it seems to get carried on, because you keep reincarnating with the same souls until you work it out, or that then roles are reversed, or so I just find that it's the same souls within that circle that keep carrying it on. Yes,
anger. I think behind it all is fear. It's the fear that promotes the anger or the grief. Yeah, but whatever it is, it's a rub, isn't it, against one family member against another. And I guess the greatest gift of the family member that provokes it in the end is that they've come to help you find yourself and your peace and your joy, and reconnect with who you really are.
Yeah, and I guess that if someone like chooses to overcome that and deal with it, then it will break the cycle for then, everyone else that incarnates and their children and so on. So I guess it can just take one person to break that.
Definitely. And the babies coming in now are just awesome. Basically off the karmic cycle, as are we, if we've done the work. I believe if we've done our work, we're already off the karmic cycle.
Yeah, so we lose those limitations that we have by carrying that lifetime over lifetime. Because I know that people have carried it for eons, even, like someone even sort of had something that they were carrying from before humans were even seeded, that there was like a battle between good and evil. And they were carrying trauma of that still now. But as I said, we're getting to the point where they're now recognizing it, seeing it, and we've got all these healers doing all these different things, and they're able to now identify it and deal with it and release it.
Yes, yes, that's what it comes down to, because often it resides in the subconscious or unconscious. And that's partly what I do, assist people to bring these wounds to consciousness so that they can release them and heal them. And the time is very ripe for that. And I work with a lot of people, leaders in corporations. You know, it's worked out, or have someone recommend people to me who she knows are ready for this work, even if they know that's what they're coming for. They come for transformational coaching, which I can legitimately call it. And it's just lovely to think that this work is going on throughout corporations as well. Yeah, because there's such big learning schools for people, where a lot of these angers and frustrations build up in people because they, for whatever reason, they might feel stuck, not in their power. And one of the main things is bringing people into their true power, back into their true power.
Yeah, and I also remember seeing or hearing quite a while ago that we're going to start seeing, and perhaps we already are, is people with good intentions in very important roles. So
yes,
in corporate or in politics, we're getting individuals coming in now who perhaps see what's going on, and their intentions are good, and they're going to bring about change.
yes, there are all sorts of prophecies around that, aren't there, about how, you know, how even the current regime on the planet could change, even in the twinkling of an eye. Who knows? Yeah, they say.
Very interesting times. Now, how long, if you see someone, how long do you generally do a session for? And do you do follow-ups? Like, is it a one-off, or do people come see you for a few? Or...
I do both. Some people come for a one-off. Most of the people I've worked with since about the year 2000 really have done a program with me. And I used to say in the beginning, you would need at least 12 sessions. And now there's been such a quickening. Sometimes people do 10, sometimes 6, and sometimes even less. So it depends on, because everyone's program is personalized. And I work out a program for each person, and just depending what their need is.
And I find that too with what I do, because so I do Dolores Cannon's technique of hypnosis. And when I trained, and the way that she did it was very much that the person who was being hypnotized would see one life, and they would see several days of that life, and they would see how it progressed, and that was their hypnosis. And then they would find out what it is about that life with their purpose and lesson or whatever. But in the last few years, I have never had anyone just see just the one life. Like, they may, usually it's one scene, because I think that people have now the sort of the awakened, they can just see a snippet and kind of piece it together, whereas years ago they probably needed to see how it progressed and so on. So I agree, there's definitely a quickening.
Yes. And I feel even this year's, it's such an amazing year. I think it's going to be amazing right to the end of the year.
You just cut out for a second. Sorry, what were you saying about this year? You think it'll be interesting all the way to the end?
Yes, I think there are more happenings going to take place. And it's amazing in a way how severe it is, and yet how gentle it is in one sense. Like, there's a lot of tragedy and death and whatever, but things are progressing all the while. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And yeah, a lot of changes, planetary changes and stellar changes. Yeah, it's just the most incredible time to be alive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I had a feeling as though it was that we were probably about maybe 3 weeks ago, I felt as though we were about a quarter of the way through.
Yeah,
What we're going to go through.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Now,
Well,
sorry, were you going to say something?
I just say it's lovely just the way we met, just by accident. So apparently, and then we've done a session with each other, and now we're doing this sharing, and everything is conspiring to bring the work forward and bring the higher dimensional work forward, or the transformational work forward.
Yeah, and definitely getting more connected. I think there's more connection with people, and it's no longer, I'm doing this on my own. It's kind of like, let's work together. I mean, that's where I'm at anyway, because I kept thinking, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And, there's certain things you have to do and set up. And it was kind of a bit overwhelming because I also have another business that I run. And when I started doing this and, wanting to set everything up, I'm like, oh, not again. I don't want to do this. And then you're like, how do I move forward? I know where I want to be. I know what I want to do, but how do I get there? And then I just thought, I'm just going to connect with people, because connecting with people that, like yourself, and that are kind of doing a similar thing, but in a different way, I think that does so much, like it does so much for me.
Yes, and for me, and by doing it for you and me and us together, it's certainly doing it for the whole. I wouldn't have had such a strong feeling of that once, but I do now. Like, even all the words we've said in this time together, they're out there now.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
Yeah, so it's been very, very lovely.
Yeah, I have enjoyed it. I get a bit nervous, and I'm like, oh, because I'm not a journalist. So, I just think, oh, I'll just write a heap of questions, and then I make a big mess of it. Like, look at my mess, just writing everywhere. I've got 3 pages.
No, but you didn't make a mess of it, because if it were a journalist, I would have got a lot more questions on how much does it cost and all these sorts of things that are not relevant to what we were talking about, because you've done it from your heart. And the lovely thing is, you've done it from your work. And mine's similar to that. Every person I work with, it's like it widens your field and your knowledge and your wisdom and your knowing, and you're learning so much from taking people into the hypnosis, as I am in my work. So I just have enjoyed being with you, and it's been very relaxing and lovely.
Yeah, same. It went really well, because when, like, as soon as we met, I'm like, oh, I've got to sort of do more with you, because I don't know why, I just did. And then you reached out to me. I'm like, oh, good, we're both on the same page. So that worked out really well. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, but I'm definitely feeling like more relaxed and more unified, and more of a community rather than the self. And it's interesting, because that's what the Marcus Dabb said when I chatted to him about numerology. He said that's what the 2000s are all about, especially now that we don't have a dominant one, because we still had the one throughout the teens, the 2010 through to 2019. And so, he said that, like, there's no more ones now. They only appear once every 10 years. So I think the collective, and, obviously I'm picking up on that quite strongly, because I'm just like, there's just all these amazing people that, we just need to connect with more.
Yeah, thank you. And you've got such a beautiful energy around you. And I love your yellow jacket.
Oh, thank you. I know, that's thanks to you. It's the first thing I bought that was yellow. And it's funny, because my daughter loves yellow and she's always wanting yellow stuff, and I've bought it for her. But after I did the session with you, I kind of went, because I kind of didn't want to believe it. I didn't really want to let go of my fear. And yeah, I walked through the house and there is nothing yellow. I own nothing yellow, not in my wardrobe, not anywhere. So I went straight to the shop and bought it. And I've noticed a massive difference having, you know, what you did to me. And also it was only like probably 2 days later. When did we do that? I think it was only 2 days later that I actually connected with Dave Gamble and asked him if he wanted to do this with me, and that was the first one I did. So I don't think I would have done that if I didn't have that clearing and bringing that yellow through to the now. So I noticed a difference within 2 days, because I rang him and I said, this is what I'm thinking, would you be my first? Because, you know, we've been mates for a long time. He said, yep, let's do it tomorrow. I went, that's too quick. But I don't know, we did it. And I'm just quite enjoying it.
Yes, no, you're in your element and you look fabulous. And I know that you moved beyond that fear. So it's just cheers to the universe, cheers to spirit, cheers to you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And so you did, was it NLP you did?
It's a combination of, there's a little bit of NLP because it goes along your timeline. It's using the wisdom of all the mystical traditions I've studied, just whatever is appropriate at the moment. And it's connecting with, even though I say I've had such a challenge remembering, I just know things. It's like a very strong intuition that I know, and I just know what to do, and I just channel the healing through as well. So it's a combo, if you like.
Yeah.
And the shamanism, of course.
So you bring all your knowledge together and use your intuition to know what to do for someone. Oh, you've just...
Based religions, their wisdom, their mystical tradition, and the earth-based shamanism. Like even when I taught Year 12 religion, say, I would want to take kids out to meditate in nature or to have an experience in nature, because I knew then, like, there are places on the earth that have so much power. Like, why is the Uluru so sacred to the Aboriginal? Because it's just it's the navel of the planet, and it's got so much power. But many rocks and places where we sit, and trees around us, like, we can befriend them and connect. So I was even doing shamanism before I knew I was doing it or was trained in it.
Yeah. So okay, because you probably just had that within you, had that instinct of knowing what to do. That's like, I feel like I do Reiki, but I've never had training to do Reiki. I just yes. Remember saying to my daughter one day, she was limping and she looked like she had a bite on her. I said, here, let me suck it out. So yeah. I just did it, and I just kind of visualized and imagined that it was working, and she got up and hopped away and started playing and didn't feel anything after that. So I think, yeah, we all have that within us, and we're just trusting our instinct and doing it. Exactly.
Yes, because if you've done it, you know, I've been a healer in many lifetimes and a teacher. So they sound just plain words, but they're quite power-packed, really.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, now I don't expect you to know the answer, but what do you think of this? Do you think that Christ or Jesus was thrown into the karmic wheel as well? Do you think he's had lifetimes as well? And do you think that he will actually incarnate again? Or do you feel like it's that people are accessing and connecting with the Christ consciousness and energy now?
I do think he did have lives, and that he worked through a lot and came to his utter fullness in his last earth lifetime. And I always remember what he said, that you will do what I've done and greater. So it is the Christ consciousness he bequeathed to us, and we're all one in it. And so the way he's been put up on a high pedestal has been very wrong. He's worthy of great heights, but we all are. So yes, and I also believe that Magdalene was a great partner to assist him to ascend. Yeah, in the lifetime they shared together. And they went into the pyramids and went into a state of samadhi, and I increasingly feel the pyramid has an amazing Christ consciousness about it. So you're not asking me about the pyramid, I know, but yes, I think Jesus was had an amazing soul energy, and had prior experiences, and he came to mastery in the lifetime we all know about, but just opened it up for humanity. Incredible, really. The Christ consciousness. Yeah.
Very amazing.
You agree with that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I've heard people say that he, since that life that we all know about, I've heard people say that he also has been having many lifetimes since then, same as us. But I don't know what to think of that.
Well, I guess in us and through us, that his spirit has certainly been incarnating ever since, I guess, because he bequeathed his spirit.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's quite mysterious. Yes, the way we were brought up and taught was though he was totally other and untouchable almost, and up there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was, yeah. I kind of think about it often, but anyway, so I don't know, I think we might finish up. Do you think?
Yes, well, it's been lovely because thank you for your questions, and it's been a joy meeting you and sharing the work and sharing something of what I do. There's a beautiful amalgamation in what we both do and what all of us are doing who are working with these energies and in this dimension at this time. Yeah. It's like I've always loved that we will renew the face of the earth, or the earth has been groaning in one great act of giving birth. And yeah, so we all are playing our role in that.
Yes, definitely. And even people who feel like, you know, I even say even people who even just share stuff on Facebook, or just all these different little minor roles, I just see it as one big unit, and everyone's got different parts and they're all equally important.
Exactly, and you can never judge anyone. Like often it's the beggar on the street who might be like the greatest master. As you know, we can't judge it at all, and we all have our own gifts, and it's lovely that we can rejoice in them and share them, like on Zoom or whatever now.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. It's been wonderful. So thank you for the really interesting and enlightening discussion. That was really good. And I'll put all your contacts in the comments and everything, so people can contact you.
Thank you very much. So can I just have a little word with you when you turn off now?
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Bye.